Good to go.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome everybody to this morning's meeting, and I would like to call the meeting to order. The time is now 9:02. Stephanie, will you please take attendance?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Adrienne Cochran will not be joining us this morning. Andrea Comer,
Present.
Ellen McKitterick,
Present.
Mike Saltis. I know Mike's here. Holly Williams
Present.
and Melissa Gibran, I don't think has joined us. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank any members of the public who are joining us this morning. Our first order of business is actually a review and approval of the September 26, 2025 meeting minutes. And I would like to ask the committee for a review of the September minutes. Are there any corrections or discussion? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I see Mike holding his hand up, so we'll take that as a vote in favor. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, not seeing any, the motion carries. And we'll move to item number 3, which is a review and approval of the October 24th, 2024 or 2025 meeting minutes. And I'd like to ask the committee for a review and if there are any corrections or discussion. All right, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. A second?
Second. Oh, Mike
Thank-
had put his thumb up. Let Mike have the
Oh.
second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll take Mike's hand. Let me just make sure he didn't want to. Okay, any abstentions? Any opposed? I think Mike is going to sign back in. So the motion carries. And we're on to item number 4, which is a private plan overpayment refund update, which Dave is going to walk us through.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Can I share my screen?
You can see your screen, Dave.
Okay. Let's make that a little bigger. Okay. Okay. Good morning again, everybody. We are going to do a brief overview on private plan refunds. So let's jump right into it. Okay. So what are private plan refunds? So what happens is when an employer has a private plan, it's not supposed to remit contributions to the authority because it's already remitting to its own insurance carrier. So in other words, it remits to its private plan. It's not supposed to remit to the public plan, i.e. the authority. But sometimes, however, an employer does indeed remit contributions to the authority, even though they do have a private plan. Why does that happen? Typically, this is because the folks at a company who handle the insurance are not the same folks who handle payroll. And so it would appear that there is some kind of lack of communication or communication breakdown. So the message never gets to the payroll folks that they should not be withholding contributions and remitting them to the authority. So while we were reviewing the private plans as part of a project, we did indeed discover that some of them had been remitting contributions to the authority and had been doing so for multiple quarters. What we haven't seen any evidence of is employees paying twice. both to the private plan and to the public plan. We haven't seen any evidence of that. So what do we do when we get these contributions? Well, we refund them because they were never supposed to be remitted to the authority in the first place. So in October, we refunded about $2.2 million to 35 employers. And on average, that represented about 7/4 of contributions. This month, by the end of the month, we'll have refunded another $292,000 of contributions to another 27 employers. And then by the end of this January, the remaining estimated balance of $189,000 will have been refunded to 135 employers. Now, as part of our due diligence, before we issue a refund, we work with Michael Caesar and his fabulous legal team, and we do indeed confirm that an employer's private plan carrier has their private plan in force, that the coverage is in force. Because if it's not, then they don't have a private plan, and so they should have indeed been remitting the contributions to the public plan. So we make sure that's the case before we remit the money back. These refunds are reported as a reduction of contribution revenue, as opposed to reporting them as an expense. They're a reduction of contribution revenue because they were reported as revenue and they shouldn't have been reported as revenue in the first place. So that's why it's a reduction of revenue. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes when we start talking about financial results. So what does that mean going forward? Going forward, we will be monitoring private plans every quarter, and at the end of every quarter when the contributions come in, and then look for any that we shouldn't have gotten for those employees who have private plans, and we will remit that money back to the employer by the end of the next quarter. We will also start exercising our authority to impose monetary penalties on those employers who keep sending us contributions, even though we've communicated with them and said, hey, you've sent these to us in error, please stop. But if they keep doing that, we do have the authority to issue penalties, and we'll do that for those employers who just keep on doing it. Because this process, as you may imagine, has no value add for anybody, not for the authority, not for the employer. It's just money coming in and going back. And as you might imagine, it's not an ideal use of resources. So we're trying to minimize that as much as possible. So that's what's going on with private plan refunds. I'm happy to take any questions from the committee at this time.
I don't see any. Oh, wait. Yes,
Andrea,
Andrea.
I think Andrea's doing it old school this morning. Yes, Andrea.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't get the button to work.
I hear you. No worries.
So good morning, everyone. I guess my question is, how do you determine what the penalty is?
Michael, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is
Okay.
actually a change we had made to our private plan policies. I don't think it was this year. I think it actually was last year that we did that. The first two times that this occurs, no penalties at all. The third time, there's a $50 penalty. The fourth time, there's a $100 penalty. And the fifth time, and this is where it sort of could get significant, it's the greater of 1% of the amount we refund or $100. So it's sort of escalating penalties built into our policies to, hopefully stop this from occurring in the future.
And do we sort of seek sort of affirmation or confirmation of receipt of any communication we're putting out there to say, like, you're giving us this money and you're not supposed to? Yeah, I just wonder what our sort of proactive communication, because I could see a world where folks get, or even from a policy perspective, people start asking questions about, well, why are you charging people just for sending you money? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I want to jump in. So we make a lot of efforts to communicate with the employers. That's one of the reasons why Michael gets involved, is to reach out to the employer and often the insurance carrier, because sometimes the private plan, the person from the employer who filed for the private plan may no longer be still there. So that's why Michael actually engages with the carriers to connect and make sure that the information is getting out there. The reason for the penalties is it costs us money. It costs us time and effort, and sort of detracts from the other revenue enhancing efforts that Walter and his team should be focusing on. And even though we have not yet seen evidence through the audits that Michael and his team do, that there is double billing, that's still always a risk that we want to make sure is shut down. So we've tried the, hey guys, stop paying us method. We've tried the, no, we told you, stop paying us method. And we learned with the contributions that somehow charging people $50 will magically get their attention. So we're really hoping that that's all it's going to take, and that this can just stop, because it's a drain on our resources and it's not good for the employers or the workers.
Thanks so much for the clarity.
Mike?
Hey, good morning. Let me apologize. My screen froze, so I had to sign off and sign back in. So
No worries. We've all been there.
the the numbers 2.2 million is kind of got my attention. Have any idea how many employers are inappropriately sending us money?
Oh, yeah. That $2.2 million represented 35 employers. Now, those were the 35 largest employers. So don't extrapolate that over like an entire population, because the next tranche we did was another 27 employers. And that was a smaller amount of $292,000. And then the final tranche is the dollar amount is smaller than that, $189,000. And that's 135 employers. So we're doing it in order of dollar magnitude, but we wanted to get the larger amounts out the door first. So that's why that was.
So what can we conclude from that? Is it smaller employers who are generally making these errors, or are there some large employers?
There are, it's across the board. It's across the board. There's more smaller in terms of scope, smaller employers than larger ones, but there's definitely larger ones out there doing it too. So just, yeah.
Okay, so, it's just mind-boggling to me that, especially after notice, these companies. I mean, that's generally not a good career move to send money to a different
No,
or a place
I
where
hear
it's not
you.
supposed to go.
Right. And we, we approach as well, maybe it was an honest mistake. And, as like Michael pointed it out, like we're not penalizing people the first time you do it, right? But by the third time, yeah, so
Yeah.
I mean, stuff happens, we get it. But again, we're just trying to minimize it, so the employers, can get their money back, and they
All
can
right.
use it, and they can use it for better things too. I mean, earning
Yeah.
interest if nothing else.
So last question, has the number of employers, not the dollars, increased or decreased over the last couple of years?
In terms of the private plan sending us money,
Yes.
it's been pretty steady. Unfortunately, we've seen multiple employers repeatedly send us contributions. So, like we said, that's why we're trying to minimize that, and going forward, where we're taking a more proactive approach. So we let the employers know sooner, so they can react on it sooner. So we're just trying to take all these steps, again, just so we can, prevent this as happening as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, not seeing any. So we're going to move on to our actuarial quarterly update, and Harindra is going to provide that to us from the Spring Group.
Good morning. The purpose of my portion of this meeting is to present the July through September quarterly results, so Q1 fiscal year, on an incurred basis, as I usually do. So I'll run through the summary of results real quick to begin. So the prior projection was incorporated into our annual work and incorporated into our annual report. That had a starting fund balance of 641 million, net activity of 8 million projected for the quarter, with the overall ending fund balance of 649 million. We revised the starting balance position based on the fact that actual contributions received in July were a little bit lower compared to expected, or what we had held in the reserve. So the net fund balance, net of outstanding contributions and claim payments, was revised to 638.9 million. So this was a revision of 2.1 million at the beginning of the year. Again, just because actual contributions were lower than what we were holding in the reserve as expected contributions. The net activity for the quarter was 0.2 million in total. So that is based on earned contributions of 111.4 million, investment income of 6.7 million, incurred claims of 122.2 million, and other expenses of 9.9 million. The other item here is the transfer from the operating reserve that was in July, that we had discussed previously. The contributions earned, this number, the 111.4 million, it is lower than what we had projected, in part because of the refund that Dave spoke about earlier. It's about a little over 2 million. The remaining is purely because actual contributions were in fact lower. We're looking at available data to look at what's driving contributions being lower, both for this quarter as well as what we had expected before for the end of the prior fiscal year. So we're looking at what's driving it to understand if this is a trend or if this is just something more specific to this quarter. So more to come on that. Investment income was a little bit higher than expected, and then incurred claims were a little bit higher than expected as well. So overall, this quarter's net activity was lower compared to what we had projected one quarter before this, about 8 million lower. The funding metrics, as it stands, the actual metrics as of September 30th, 2025, continue to be strong. We're below the targets. So based on that, our conclusion is that the fund position currently remains strong, and because the funding metrics are within the target levels. Okay. Moving on to the next page. This page provides a graphical illustration of what I just spoke about. So overall, looking at actual results, we start off with a fund balance of 638.9 million. Revenue in total was 118.1 million. Expenses were 132.1 million. And then the transfer from the operating reserve was 14.2 million. So the net impact resulted in an ending fund balance of 639.1 million. You can see the projected results on the right-hand side as well. We have provided the detail in the following page. I won't go through this right now, but I'll leave it for your review as well as for any questions that may come up. Okay. This page provides the full year projection. So we were looking at the quarterly numbers before. This is an extrapolation for the full year. The numbers on the right-hand side provide the projection for the full year that we had looked at before. And this was a fund balance projected, ending fund balance of 660.2 million. with net activity for the year of 19.2 million. I will note that while contributions are lower in this quarter and certainly the last calendar quarter of the calendar year, we do expect contributions to be much higher in the first quarter of the calendar year. So in other words, for the period January through March, and then it sort of tends to drop as more individuals reach their caps. So just to note that that's the usual trend that we always project and we see in the data in the actual contributions. The updated numbers this quarter, we're projecting a decrease compared to what we had before. So overall net activity of close to 10 million positive at the moment. That based on a beginning fund balance of 638.9 million and an ending fund balance of 648.6 million. So overall, we reduced some of the numbers, the reduced the contributions earned, and the incurred claims number was increased to reflect the most recent quarter's data. And we'll continue to do that every quarter as we reforecast for the full year based on what we're seeing in the emerging claims experience. With that, I'll pause for questions.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Michael.
Good morning, Harindra. Thank you for your presentation. Just two questions. When you do your adjustments for quarter to quarter, I presume you look at layoffs and the notices filed with the Department of Labor for layoffs. Is that right?
The data that we're looking at is not specifically layoff data. To some extent, it's access to some of that data and availability, but we are more looking at what the actual contribution experience has been or actual claims have been to decide on whether or not, firstly, reflect the current quarter's activity, and then think about how that might also influence what we're projecting for the remaining quarters. So not necessarily, like we're looking at a lot of economic factors, I suppose. You could argue that layoffs will be built into like unemployment, changes in unemployment levels and things like that. But so that is part of it. But at the same time, a lot of what's driving projection work and analysis is based on what we're seeing in the claims experience and in the contribution data.
Okay.
Mike, I'll also add that all of that data is lagging currently right now, whether it's unemployment information, wage trends, layoffs, it's all lagging in part because of the federal shutdown. So there's been a delay of information in that. But as that information comes, it obviously informs us and will adjust as necessary. But we're still trying to get the most recent data, and we're still waiting for some of that to come in.
But the only reason I ask is I kind of keep an eye on. You're familiar with the WARN filings, Worker Adjustment Retraining Notification Act filings? I mean, they're filed on the State Department of Labor website, so they're readily available. And it just seemed to me there seemed to be an upward trend. I mean, I haven't analyzed it, but and that's layoffs coming in the next 2 months and out. So that's what prompted my question. The other observation, and I know we're just looking at a quarter, so I don't want to, but it seemed like claims are increasing, revenue decreasing. That's not a good long-term model. And I wonder if you could comment on that.
Yeah, so yes, overall, this quarter it does indicate not poor results, I guess, relative to what we had projected. So worse results, both on the claim side and the revenue side. And yes, that like we have seen claims, as you know, Mike, going up a lot, even in the last several years, right? Every quarter, well, not every quarter, but many of the quarters, we have seen increases in claims. And so that is something we are monitoring very closely. And then, as I mentioned, with the contributions being lower, again, that is also something where we are digging into to better understand what's driving it. Like you said, it is one quarter's worth of results, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be looking at it. And certainly we even saw that at the end of last quarter, what we projected was a little bit higher than what ended up coming in. So I agree. The results are not favorable, and certainly a lot of we have more work to do to understand what's driving it and look at how we might update our projection as well. Because I do agree. Those observations, as you can see in the numbers.
There's a little bit of, I don't know if it's irony, but we have a whole effort to increase claims, right? We're out there trying to generate more claims, but the revenue doesn't seem to be keeping up. So we'll just keep an eye on it. That's all we could do and try to better understand it. Thank you.
Mike, it's funny because a lot of the comments you've made are the comments that we had internally earlier this week. But I want to just take the moment to thank you for the recommendation to check the WARN notices. I think that that's a really good source of data that is forward-looking. So that gives us a little bit better and current information than the UI information, which is usually a quarter lagging. It is a particularly difficult time to try to get an overall sense of the economy, given the impact of the federal layoffs as well as the federal closure. But you're right, the WARN Act is within our control to access. So just want to really underline that that's a good source that we should be looking at. Dave, Harindra.
All right, thanks.
I already made a note. Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you very much for the presentation, Harindra.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to a discussion about the meeting cadence. Each committee is having this conversation. As you'll recall, we had decided collectively that it made sense, given the purview that the finance committee has, to keep this as a monthly meeting. And so I just asked committee members if they agree to maintain that moving forward, or if they think some alternate schedule should be discussed, such as quarterly or every other month or something like that. I'm of the opinion that the monthly meetings, I know that they, take up spots on everybody's calendar, but I think given what we discuss, I think that it's prudent to meet monthly so that we can get ahead of any issues should we start to see it in the data. But I don't know if others feel differently.
I share your view, Holly.
I agree.
Same.
Oh, good. Because I really want you guys to keep meeting monthly. So thank you.
All right. So we will maintain the monthly meetings moving forward, and we can always entertain this conversation again should we, think we need to change it. And I don't believe we need to have a vote or anything on that, correct? Okay.
Correct. Keeping on.
So we'll just keep moving along then. Dave, you're going to bring us up to speed on our budget to date.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, thank you for continuing to share your time with me once a month. I appreciate that. Okay. Let's get to it. we are going to talk about the results of October.
We can see your screen, Dave.
Okay, thank you as always, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Okay, October. Here we go. Operating results were just under $2.6 million. That is $376,000 more than we have budgeted for the month. It was the typical expenses for the month, payroll and related expenses. We did have 3 payrolls this month, so that's why the expenses are running higher than what you might be used to seeing. And that was a total of over $967,000. Software licenses, we had $168,000. Contact center was over $132,000. And our outreach expense was $73,000. So again, typical operating expenses for the month. Year to date, our activity before the redesignation transfer, which we've discussed before, was just under, excuse me, was just under $3.6 million. And we have and that results in a positive budget variance to date of $1.2 million for our operating results. For bond money, we spent $121,000 this month. That if you might remember, we didn't spend any money last month.
Mm.
So we spent it twice. Oh, was there a question? No? Okay. So we made 2 payments instead of one this month. So again, that might be why it's higher. It is why it's higher than what you're used to seeing, and why we had a negative variance this month of just under $80,000. Year to date, we have a negative variance of $66,000. It'll probably be around that for the next few months heading into the next fiscal year, heading into the end of the current fiscal year. But having said that, we have $1.2 million of bond money. So even with that negative variance, we'll still have bond money at the end of the year. And if we do need any additional bond money for projects, we will obviously advise you and update you of our plans to ask for more bond money from the bond commission. Nothing definitive at this time, but if it gets to that, we'll absolutely let you know. Contribution activity for the month of October. We had net activity of just over $58 million for the month. That resulted in a negative variance of just under $8 million. That was twofold. The first fold was just under $2.7 million for benefits paid. That came in at $47.9 million. That equates to about $9.6 million a week. This was for 5 weeks. Again, this might be larger than what you're used to seeing, but a few times during the year, we reimburse Aflac 5 times a month instead of 4. And this is one of those times. Like I said, that equates to 9.6. That's been the run rate for the past couple of months. Talking about contributions, as Harindra had indicated earlier, contributions did come in lower than what we had budgeted by just over $5.4 million. They came in at $109.8 million. We'll show how that compares to prior quarters in a second, just so you can see what the trend looks like. I do want to touch on year-to-date results, which come in at just over $64.3 million. That is a negative variance to budget of $17.3 million. Again, in part due to benefits coming in higher than budgeted and contribution revenue coming in lower than budgeted. Our investment income has consistently come in higher than budgeted. We are $881,000 better than budget. We are earning about 4.2% right now, we budgeted at 4.1%. The short-term investment fund we invest in, that rate does change as Fed fund rates change. So I I don't have the magic crystal ball. I really don't know which way the wind is going to blow on that one. But as it happens, it'll adjust the short-term investment fund rate, and we'll let you know when that happens. But so far, we are ahead of the game in terms of investment income. These are the quarterly trends for the contribution revenue that I mentioned a moment ago. The green bars represent the contributions coming in this year. And the green bar that's farthest right represents the most recent quarter that we got, which is $111.4 million. It does include the $2 million plus in private plan refunds that we had issued in October. So that is part of the reason for the decrease. The $111 million is $1.6 million more than same quarter last year, or 1.4%, which for year to date is a 2.5% or $9 million increase over the year. That increase is lower in terms of percentage than we've seen in the past. At this time last year, we were 4.6% ahead of last year, and like I said, we're 2.5% of this year. So we are monitoring that closely and seeing what that means going forward. The contribution fund balance itself, as Harindra had mentioned before, we are in compliance with all the metrics, and the dollar amount on a cash basis as of the end of October is at over $650 million. What that means for the balance sheet, like I mentioned, most of the money is in the short-term investment fund at $626 million. And that's the biggest part of our assets, which are just under $658 million. And other assets continue to be the impressed account. We have an AFLAC, some fixed assets, and the operating fund balance and the bond fund balance. Liabilities continue to be the bond funds that we have to pay, and we've got about 7 more years on those, and we'll make the next payment in June of 2026. Okay, let's talk about projecting where we are going to be at the end of the fiscal year. For operations, we expect to be about $1.6 million ahead of where we were. Biggest driver of that is operating expenses. We had budgeted 16.9. We expect to be at 15.2. So that's also $1.6 million. What is driving that positive variance? Number one, it's payroll and related expenses. Number one, positions are starting later than we are budgeted. Number two, we have vacancies in there that we are filling or recently filled that were not budgeted. For example, we have a legal position that is open that we are filling. We had a promotion within IT, and so and somebody internally filled the position. So we were in the process of filling that, and that got filled internally. So we are filling that IT position. The other contributing factor is that the pension overhead rate that we're paying now is lower than what we budgeted. So that will result in a positive variance going forward for the rest of the year. Other contributing factors to this positive variance include IT consultants. We're spending less than we expected and continue to do so for the rest of the year. Professional services, things like legal and temp services, the spending on that hasn't been what we budgeted because we haven't needed it to be. So that contributes to the positive variance as well. And there's also other miscellaneous, other positive variance. Spending is lower than what we expected, and all that contributes to the estimated 1.6 positive variance that we expect to have at the end of the year. Moving on to the contribution activity. We expect the activity to be $13.8 million for just under $1.5 million variance. Two things I want to note here. Number one, benefit payments have come in higher than what we budgeted, and we expect that trend to continue for the rest of the year, and that's a negative $7.5 million. Contributions. Okay. We are projecting at this time that projections by the end of the fiscal year will come in at $7.8 million. Now, you're probably sitting there saying, Dave, you just told us that year to date, our contribution revenue is down $7 million. So how are we going to be up by $7.8 million by the end of the fiscal year? Fair question. As Harindra noted before, we are expecting the biggest part of our contributions to come in the first calendar quarter of the year, and all data that we have now indicates that will result in this positive variance. Having said that, and as we said before, we are working with Harindra. We are monitoring this very closely. Is it just a temporary anomaly we're seeing now, or is it a more permanent trend? We had estimated about a 5% growth rate in our budget numbers, but the most recent quarter showed about 3 to 4% activity. We're in the process of validating employer compliance. We don't see anything now where there's been a spike in employers not complying, so that doesn't seem to be an issue. And we're also looking to compile more recent data, as we mentioned, but some of that data is indeed lagging. So we're working on that. Mike, thanks for the tip on what the Connecticut DOL is offering. We'll certainly take a look at that. And all that is to say that this is a projection. These numbers are not set in stone. This is what we're seeing now. But as time goes on, if we see anything that gives us more credence to adjust that contribution number, we will certainly adjust it as necessary. So that's what we see now, but we're also looking into that because of the year-to-date variance. So we are aware of that. I just want to let the committee know that we are aware of that. And so we see what we're projecting now, but we are prepared to change it as data supports doing so. So those are the results for October and what we think are happening at the end of the fiscal year. I'm happy to take any questions from the committee at this time.
I don't see any. I had a question just on the bond ask.
Sure, Holly.
Yeah, just to remind me, the majority of, if not all of, what you use your bond allocations for are predominantly to build out and support the IT infrastructure of the authority, correct? Okay.
Yes, yep, that's exactly what it's used for.
Okay, that was helpful. And then the authority itself is responsible for paying their own debt service, which is why we see it as a line item on our financials.
Yes, we are. Yes, indeed. And we do.
I just wanted to make sure that was where we were reminded of that, because that's not always the case for agencies. So
yes, that it's not typical from what I understand.
Right.
Unique. I also just want to point out the legislature deauthorized some bond money based on communications with us, where we talked about what we reasonably expect to need. So that's why if you think back to the old days where it looked like we had 50 million in bonds, and now we have 26.
26.
That's not because we spent it, it's because it was deauthorized, so it's sort of no longer on the table. It's not money we were ever allocated, it was just legislatively authorized. So we don't ever anticipate spending 50 million at this point in time. So that's why they took it off the table so they could use it for other bond obligations.
That's helpful. So I didn't have any other questions or comments. Did anybody else from the committee? All right, not seeing any. Is there any old business? No. Any new business? No. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion carries. The meeting is now adjourned. The time is 9:48 a.m. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving and a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.